Welcome to Beyond the Chutes is presented by ParaSight Systems. I'm your host, Doug Simcox, and I hope that you're having a great day, staying safe, and if you are driving while listening to our podcast, keep your eyes up, hands on the wheel, do enjoy it, but let's stay safe. Today, Sam and I are recording in Pavard, New York. BTC, Beyond the Chutes, is on the road again. We're actually recording at the Rawhide Ranch, the BTC Studios North here, Great Digs, and we are tickled to be here today with Miss Sandy Wheeler and Mr. Dave Wheeler. Now, Dave is the original founder of the Attica Rodeo in Attica, New York. Welcome, Dave.
Yes, sir.
Good to have you with us. Welcome, Sandy.
Thank you, and it's Brewer now.
Oh, can I say Sandy Wheeler Brewer?
Sure, that's good.
Okay. I just wanted to get the relationship in, but I will call you Sandy Brewer from now.
Okay.
Maybe just Miss Brewer.
You can call me Sandy.
Sandy.
Sandy's
okay.
fine.
Okay. Now that we have everybody there. So let's go back to the beginning, Dave. Where did you grow up? Where were you born?
Attica, New York.
You were born in Attica, New York. Okay.
Actually, the hospital is in Batavia, but I'm
Okay.
from the hospital 3 days later back to Attica,
Okay. Excellent.
where I lived basically all my life.
In Attica, New York, on a farm?
No, my father was a building contractor, and we lived on, he built a house on my grandfather's land, bought some land from him, and built a house there
Build a house there.
on Exchange Street where the rodeo was located.
Right on Exchange, right down the road from the rodeo grounds.
Yeah.
So as I turn into the rodeo grounds,
Continued down about a mile, and
on the same road, I'll be darned.
Just
Okay.
basically on the other side of the jail.
Okay. Okay.
and Dean Sawyer was raised just up the road from me.
Yeah.
And Gene Redding also was raised right around the corner from us, and Dave Leslie, and Dave Walker was just up the road from us, and a lot of the original guys we were in that neighborhood.
So you all grew up together.
Yeah.
And you were in the neighborhood. You weren't out on a farm. Did you know of horses? Were you doing horses?
Well, as we grew up, we worked on my grandfather's farm, my brother and I, and Dean worked a farm his dad had.
Yeah.
And so on.
Okay. Okay. And when did you find rodeo? When did you discover rodeo?
I think my Uncle Paul Stedman took my cousin, my brother, and I down to Alfred Station, where Dick Holton started out announcing rodeo. He was a radio announcer in Hornell,
Okay.
and he took us to a roping down there.
Okay.
And they had wild cow milking, they had steer roping, they had calf roping, and steer on decorating, and that was about 1953, I think.
1953. So it was called a rodeo. Did it have a bit of were there experienced cowboys and cowgirls at this rodeo?
Yeah, there's been a lot of people in New York State that have been in rodeo for over 100 years.
Okay. Okay.
And probably one of the official rodeos when I was young we went to was down in Rochester Memorial, and can't remember the name of the old guy had the rodeos back then.
At the War Memorial?
Yeah.
So this would have been 50s as well?
Yeah,
1950s.
50 sometimes. I lose track of time.
Yeah.
I live
understood.
too damn long.
A little before my time. So,
Yeah, yeah. And,
not much.
And one of the questions that I have, as I've learned about the history of rodeo, of course, Mike and Sam's, their generation, Ed Phillips, a generation before, what's the plug between Ed Phillips and that generation, and who was putting on rodeos? Where were they? And it sounds like there were rodeos around you could
Yeah.
go to.
Yeah.
Well, are they?
And they used to have the rock that they called the Rock up in Buffalo, which was the old War Memorial Stadium. There used to be ropings up there back in the day, and that's where one of the first places I started ropings up there. And actually, it was us guys around our home base that bought horses, and Dean Sawyer had built a small arena up at his dad's house, and we would rope calves up there and ride steers and generally play around with.
So rope
Really?
calves, ride steers.
We didn't have bulls back then.
Right.
We were, I'll say the guys were 13 to 16 years old. And then old Gene Redding Sr., he was an excellent super horseman. And he's the one that took all us young guys at the time. There was half a dozen of us or more. He made us build a arena out in his pasture. We cut the logs out of the goddamn woods and we built the arena. And then he had us over there all summer long. He had us start out riding bareback for half the summer, the proper way to ride a horse and cue him. And then after the last half of the summer, he put us in saddles, and we rode that way.
Okay.
And
so
we
bareback riding horses.
Started out bareback.
Bareback
Yeah.
riding horses.
We had saddles before that, but
Yeah. And then he put you in saddles. And this was Gene Redding,
senior. we'll call it.
senior. So how old would he have been at that time? You're 13, 14, 15, your crew?
Yeah.
Okay.
His son was one of them.
His son was one of them. And
Who ended up being one of the top bronc riders, bull riders, and steer wrestlers in the APRA back the early, maybe it's ERA.
ERA, yes.
ERA. Now we're talking about Gene Redding's son, who is
Gene Redding
Gene Redding
Jr.
Jr. Okay, understand. So let me back up. So Gene Redding had horses. Always had horses, kind of?
Always had horses. Right
And-
from back to driving horses, he drove at the fairgrounds on the track during the fairground meets,
Yeah.
the standardbreds. And then he had draft horses, and he used to pull them at the fair in Erie County and at different fairs.
Okay.
And he was always placing and winning. And he was an excellent horseman.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you know why he had you riding bareback. So you would become excellent horsemen too. Feel the animal.
Yeah.
Feel what they're going to do.
Right.
It's perfect training. Just what I tell the kids do. Get out there, ride up and down them hills bareback, and feel what they're doing, how they're moving, because that saddle takes so much away from it.
Yeah, if you got to feel the horse, then you're one with the horse and not drifting around on top of a piece of leather.
So he was the one that introduced you to horses, basically? Is that a fair statement?
No, our families had horses too.
Oh, you did? Okay. In
Like
town.
my one uncle had a real nice black mare that we used to sneak out in the pasture and ride when they're yay big, and,
Okay.
and get hell for it, and they tried to work horses.
Yeah.
And but they were old Gene Redding was instrumental in Bernie Buckemeyer, Dave Leslie, Everett Vanson, Don Putnam, Jim Wheeler, Dave Wheeler, in learning how to properly ride horses.
Really? All locals,
Yeah,
right? All in the neighborhood. And he said, if you're going to ride, we're going to ride. We're going to do it properly. And to kind of recap where we've been, he's going to put you on barebacks first. But first he said, we're going to build an arena that we can practice in proper.
Yep.
You built that out of logs. You cut the logs,
Yep.
build it. What kind of fencing do you use? Yeah, woven wire.
Logs.
So
Poles.
Poles.
Everything was built out of poles, basically, that we
Okay.
cut out of the woods.
Yeah.
Dug the holes in the ground.
Yeah.
Nailed the gall darn things to the wood post.
I see.
And
your
it was
arena.
just a grass pasture.
Yeah. And
Flat
so
land.
then you got into saddles the second half of the year.
Yeah.
And then did he begin to introduce you to competition?
Well, basically on our own, we kind of went for the competitions as
Okay.
it came along.
Okay.
And I think the first year, Attica used to have a horse show in the Attica Village Park every year. And we started out down there. Alexander, New York had a horse show every year. And we went there and we started out small like that. And then you made mistakes with your horses. You made mistakes, but I would say, like myself, it took me 3 years where I could start placing and doing things right. And you're riding against 30, 40 riders, all open classes.
Yeah. No junior,
Women,
no
kids.
youth, everybody in one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you learned that way because you followed, if you were smart, you followed the example of the, I'll call them pro riders at the time.
Yeah.
And you followed their example. You made your horses better. You got better. And then you became one of your top riders.
And what
All
kind
those
of
guys did the same thing.
what events were you riding back then, Dave?
Game classes.
Game. Barrels?
Barrels and
Pole.
we won the jumping down at Coldwater, which is the town of Gates now. They brought 5 thoroughbred horses in to jump against me in the Western Knockdown and Out. And they all had Western saddles on.
Yeah.
I won the jumping at 5'6" on my horse. He stood 15-1
Oh my goodness.
and beat these 5 thoroughbreds.
So this is like high jumping contest. 5'6".
Knockdown and out, 5'6".
Had you heard of that class?
Yeah.
You had. Wow.
As soon as you hit a pole and knocked it out,
Yeah.
down, you
Yeah.
were out.
Yeah.
Your time was up. And because of just hearing about how he learned how to ride just now.
Yeah.
And years ago, I was standing by the gate. I was doing the Attica Rodeo, and there was team penning going on, and Dave was going in for the team penning. I don't know who it was standing next to me, and I never paid attention before, but they said, that man has the best seat I've ever seen of anybody riding.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I started paying attention. I said, damn,
Yeah.
he sets a horse so well.
Yeah.
But he had somebody to teach him,
Yeah.
to bring him on.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
That is absolutely wonderful. And
And like I say, all these guys, Everett went on to become an excellent roper. Bernie Buckemeyer was an excellent roper.
yeah.
Dean Sawyer was excellent.
Yeah.
And Dean didn't take lessons from Gene, but the rest of us did.
Okay.
And everybody turned out to be good.
And
Good
did
horseman.
did he start you roping?
We started roping at Dean's.
At Dean's.
Dean's dad originally had bought him a little bear mare called Sandy, and she was about 14.2, I think. And he just started riding, and with his dad's help a little bit, he got into horse showing, pleasure classes, and so on. And then as we started coming on after, he got pretty good doing that, and he had a super good mare. And for some reason, I don't remember why we built the pen up to Dean's, except we started build a calf chute ourselves and started roping calves up there, and we had Dick Holton coming in there and Dick Knapp, and it was after that Mr. Putnam I said Dave Welker, I think.
Yeah.
We called him Pudge at the time.
What?
His nickname was Pudge,
Pudge.
and he was slim and trim as a.
That's a good nickname. I like that. Pudge.
I do got one question, Dave. Now, you've named off a lot of names of these guys when you were 14 to 16 years old. I wonder what it was like after dark around that corner there. I bet you there was some times and some things went on there. You don't have to say, but I bet you there were some things that happened.
Most of us worked on dairy farms, and
Oh, really?
we didn't get a lot of sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Enough said.
A lot of going.
I did hear that they did have to learn to stay away from the hard cider, though.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Dean and I used to get our original stock, we'd get it from neighborhood people. Mrs. Forgnon at the time had a herd of beef cattle, and we got the wild cow milkers from her calves and her steers.
Okay.
Frank Wassick had Brahmas
Yeah.
that he raised for beef.
Yeah.
We got his frickin' wild Brahmas
Okay.
to use. And bucking horses, the one year we went to, it's in a book deal there.
Yeah.
We went to Jamestown, 4 of us, and bought them 4 horses.
Okay. Now you're into when the rodeo started, right?
1957, 56, we hadn't organized it.
Okay.
It was organized in 57, January 57.
Okay. So let me back up. Okay. You're roping. I want to go back to your calf roping and this whole crew you mentioned. Did they have trained calf roping horses? Did they have quality stuff? Go ahead. Yeah. Yeah.
We used our regular horses for everything we did.
Yeah. So calf roping.
And we used to play a game. You can call it cops and robbers, cowboys and Indians, chase. We called it chase.
Yeah.
2 teams out in the woods and the fields.
Yeah.
And run like hell and And if somebody don't want to get off your horse, take a leak because somebody's going to steal your good horse.
Is that right? They'd steal your horse. Okay.
I've heard about, like, on our trail rides, we go through and past a ravine back by my Uncle Bernard's out back. And it was a really deep ravine. And Dad would say, yeah, we used to play chase and run down that hill, which was
Well, it was about a 200-foot cliff
drop-off
in the air.
Cow.
From the top to the Tonawanda Creek,
Yeah.
which you can see off Route 98 when you go up through there.
Yeah.
And my brother and I got chased down that. Instead of getting caught,
Yeah.
we went down over that.
And the horse was okay and slid
And
down?
we sat on our asses, and them horses went down there,
Yep.
and barely their front feet weren't even touching the ground. They're just sliding.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we hit the water this one time down at the bottom, and Jim was running just ahead of me. His horse's feet stick down in the clay. The horse goes like this. Jim goes flying forward.
Oh, no. Oh, my.
Lands got a free bath that day.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So for you listeners, that's ass over teacup, what they call it.
Yeah. My goodness. So
And we tried not to shoot each other because we carried either shotguns, 22s, or whatever. As we played these games of chase, and we'd shoot squirrels and chipmunks and stuff, and try not to hit the guy next to you or something.
okay, so we got to stop here for a minute. Okay.
I was going to shoot my freaking horse in the head one day because he'd run away with me.
Okay.
I saw dollar signs.
That was my next question. So chase out in the woods. Of course, you had helmets on and protective vests on.
What are you
and
talking about?
Had all your guards on. 200-foot cliffs. And did I mention I'm holding a loaded 22 as I go down that 200-foot cliff?
I always carried a 12-gauge shotgun.
Oh,
myself.
you were a 12 gauge. Okay. And shooting squirrels and chipmunks and anything that moved, and hopefully not horses or.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your parents all thought this was a good idea?
I don't think they really knew what we did. And we didn't have parents that were treating us like little dinks.
Okay. Yes.
They believed in those days, boys were boys.
There you go. Well,
And we can make more if you die.
Yeah. Go. This is really interesting. How did you bridge to? And I'm still back. Who said let's rope calves? And where did that influence come
It
from?
probably was Dean Sawyer.
He'd seen it in a rodeo and said, we got to try this?
No, they had ropings here, like Alfred Station.
Okay.
That was Alfred Station. I was down there, and I was 13 years old in 1953. And Dean was 5 years older than I, so he had that experience before I did.
Auburn Station.
Alfred
Station.
Where the Alfred College is down yonder.
Okay.
University and so on.
Okay, Alfred Station. And was it basically a horse show that had roping? Or was it just a roping?
Straight roping.
And calf roping, tie-down roping, team roping?
Wild cow milking.
So all of that.
You rope a wild cow.
Did you do the what?
And you had to mug the steers to get the ribbons on their tails. So
You've done all that, right?
Yeah.
You did the wild cow milking.
I've even won a calf roping buckle one time.
You did. Excellent. At
when
Alfred Station?
When I was a young whippersnapper.
Yeah. So you did the wild cow milking.
Yeah. That was a standard.
So step back then. Not many of our listeners probably know what wild cow milking is.
Well, what you had is you had basically Hereford cows at the time, and they basically all had horns, and you let one out of the chute, and a cowboy come out after it on his horse and roped it, and then you had another fellow they call a mugger, would run over there and grab the cow's head, hold it in place, while the rider got off his horse with a Pepsi bottle or Coke bottle, and put milk in that from that wild cow.
How much milk had to go in the bottle?
Just as long as you could see it.
As long as you could see it. And then you run across the finish line and you're done?
If you didn't get your brains kicked out first.
Yeah. I mean, these are wild.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
out of the...
They weren't tame.
Out of the pasture. They weren't milk cows.
No.
So how many were dry cows and you didn't get any milk?
Well, they all had calves on their sides because we used the calves to roping.
Wow. I like
2-for-1 package. There you go.
And then the yearling and 2-year-old steers, we used them for bulldogging and the steer on decorating.
Yeah.
Which you had to rope the steer again the mugger ran out, mugged the steer, and the cowboy tied a ribbon on his tail.
The cowboy that was on the horse that had caught the steer.
Yeah.
So you've got two participants. And okay, and then I get off the horse after I catch it, and I tie which can be a bit dangerous too, right?
Well, I do got a legitimate question this
Yeah.
time, and I hope I can remember it.
Yeah.
Oh,
This time.
were they tied hard and fast, or did they undally and step off the horse and let the horse go?
No, they were tied.
Tied hard and fast. So you had to have a horse that would stand there and take it,
It
not
didn't want to
drag
run
you
off.
off,
Yeah.
and your steer.
Oh wow, I didn't even know
Okay.
that. I'd figured once the guy was mugging it, I'm let go of the rope. Who cares? But no, the horse. So the rope's tied to the saddle horn of the horse.
Yeah, I guess actually it was an option at that time. You could do either way.
Really? Okay.
There weren't any real rules like this. PRCA wants to put all these rules out there now. You can't. You
no
can't
rules.
You can't enjoy the rodeo now.
Right. So.
That's my only negative thought for the day.
Okay, well that's good. We got that out there, and that wasn't bad. That was not that bad. So you talked earlier about forming up the rodeo, and I heard 1956. I heard 1957, and for me to do my math, you're 18 years old in 56.
Born in 1940.
So you're 16 years old in 1956 when you started to have the idea we ought to have a rodeo.
Actually, it was Ellsworth Putnam, Bud Putnam, because his son was in this deal with us other guys with the horses.
Okay.
And he had the black barn that's at the rodeo grounds up on the hill.
Uh-huh.
He had built that for his son to put his 2 horses in and Everett Vanson's horses there.
Okay.
And he'd come up to Dean Sawyer's evenings and watch us guys play. And he got the idea to donate that land down there on this side of the big driveway.
Okay.
On the
So basically,
east
where
side,
the arena
southeast
is,
side of
The
the driveway.
arena side.
where the arena is,
Yeah.
where the arena and all the chutes and all the concession and everything is.
Because the Attica Arcade owned that land where the railroad bed was. It was a railroad bed.
Where you drive in was a railroad bed.
Oh, it was
Okay.
what's now the driveway.
But in Reisdorf, family up in Java owned it. They got the big feed mill up there. But the tracks washed out above between Attica and Verisburg. They discontinued that track then. And then they sold that railroad bed. They took the bridge out and the rails out, and they sold that land to Don Vanson, who lived in the house in front of the rodeo grounds. And then he made a deal with us, because we didn't have the money to buy it. And then he made a deal with us that he would sell us the land on a time deal. And his only option was that he wanted his sons to have free access to the rodeo for their lifetime.
Oh wow. Okay. And this was what year? Did Dean Banson?
Approximately 58.
1958. And you
Because
started.
previous to that, we had a railroad, we had a driveway. We put in with a bulldozer that came right off. Well, you know where the beer stand is there.
Yeah.
Right to Exchange Street, come down that hill. And we pushed dirt up that hill and made a driveway to come down. You could come down with a 2-horse trailer and a pickup truck and a car.
Okay.
That's the only way you could get in there.
Okay.
And that lasted until Don sold us that.
The railroad bed.
Yeah,
And you picked that up in 1957.
approximately.
Approximately.
58 or I'll say 58 to 60.
58 to 60. And
I
he
don't
gave
remember
you
his
he
name.
gave you terms. He gave you time to pay.
Yeah,
And part of it was free admissions for life.
for his kids.
Yeah, for his kids. Just for his kids or for his grandkids? How well did you
No,
negotiate that deal?
just his kids. He wasn't old enough to have grandkids. That's all.
No, I'm saying though, are
His
you
kids
still,
are yay big.
Are you still giving free admissions to some of his family?
They never ask.
Okay. Okay.
So that was a good deal on your part.
So,
And we didn't get upset when they come down with the BB guns and shot the spotlights out either,
oh my goodness.
which has happened over the years. Them big
Vandalism.
lights and everything
Okay.
that we've had.
Really? Okay. So let me back up here. Bud Putnam says, I'm going to donate the land to you boys. This is 1950s.
57 is when 56 is in a talking stage.
Okay. 57, you took possession.
57, we had the meeting at Dean Sawyer's house where Dick Holt was elected president, Dean Sawyer vice president, Dick Knapp was secretary, Dick Knapp was treasurer, excuse me. And we had one more in there someplace. Don't make it. Bill Harloff.
Bill Harloff. And these are all how old?
Now those guys are, well, Dean would be 5 years older than I at the time, so he'd be, we'll say 20.
20.
And Dick were about the same. Bill Harloff had just came back from Korea in 1973. Is that when the war was? No, not 70s, it's 50s, 53.
Yeah, yeah.
He just come back from the war in Korea.
Yeah.
So he was a couple years older yet. And Dick Hoffmeister also had come back from Korea. And he was a long-time horseman before he went. And he'd learned from Howie Hartman, who was a super excellent horse person in this part of the country at that time.
Okay. And the first year, so you had to build an arena first.
He put us together.
Yeah.
And we made the plans for what we wanted to do, horse shows and rodeo. Okay. And then he brought all the materials in. We used heavy-duty concrete, reinforcing wire for the fencing. He brought all the railroad ties in. We dug the 4-foot holes in the ground to put the railroad ties in. We put all the fencing up. We built the pens and the buck and chutes all by hand, out of wood, bolts, whatever. And the calf chute was welded up by Dean Wright, if I remember right.
Okay.
And in fact, Ray Smith owns that chute now.
Is that right? That's still around. Oh,
yep.
My goodness. Okay.
And that was, 67 years ago it was built?
Yeah. Yeah.
Approximately.
Now,
yeah.
I didn't realize that Dick Knapp, was he originally from there? Because I've always known Naples, New York with Dick Knapp.
He was originally from Dansville.
Okay.
And he worked at Dansville for the tech school down there, and they had a horse barn area. They kept horses, and they had classes for people, and they gave riding lessons. And Dick was in charge of taking rides out and taking care of the horses. They might have had 20 horses down there.
Wow.
At Alfred Tech.
And see, he's named off some names that when I was a kid, Dick Knapp, Dean Sawyer, Bernie Buckemeyer were the top of the heap.
Okay.
Well, they used to
even guys from out west, they'll say, "Oh, you're from New York. Do you know Bernie Buckemeyer? Do you know Dean Sawyer?"
Okay.
Okay.
Well, those four guys, the Appaloosa people used to fly them to their breed shows around the country, out west, down south, to rope on their horses, to put roping points on them. Dick Knapp actually won the Congress in the 60s on his big bay horse named John.
Quarter Horse Congress in Columbus.
Yep.
Okay.
And but these guys were, and Bernie when he set up his farm down there in Alexander, and he and Dave Leslie built the indoor arena down there, and they boarded horses and they gave lessons in roping and trained rope horses, and right up until Bernie died.
And that had to be one of the first ones in the Northeast, indoor arena.
He had guys coming from Canada and Pennsylvania and all over the eastern states down there for lessons and training
you folks
horses.
Don't know out there, Alexander, New York is not a place for the faint of heart in the winter.
Is that right? Cold?
It is in the snow
sort of
belt.
Okay.
I live in New York, Florida, compared to where they're at.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, once you come out 28 and you get past Perry Center, it all changes.
Yeah.
You get summertime out this way.
Yeah.
So you build this rodeo arena, sinking railroad ties and back pins and chutes and everything. And when are you completed, and what's your first event?
Well, I guess it was completed in the spring sometime.
Of
We had the first rodeo in
57?
57.
Spring of 57.
And I think we probably finished it in June.
Okay.
I'm just rough guessing.
Yeah.
I don't know, 7 years is too long to remember sometimes. You know, all the details.
Yeah.
They didn't have bleachers.
No bleachers.
No bleachers. You would have to pull your car up to the
Yeah.
fence,
Yeah.
and you sat on your car or your lawn chair or
Tailgate of your pickup.
Oh, we had a second set of bleachers
Oh.
on the roof of your car.
There you go. Yeah, exactly.
Double decker.
Yeah. So you said when you guys put the program together, you said we're going to have horse shows, we're going to have rodeos, etc. So in June 1957, brand new arena's done, everybody's pulled in. How did you advertise? Let me start there. How did people even know to come there?
Attica Penny Saver originally,
Okay.
and that's been the mainstay of rodeo in the Attica area to this last couple of years. Things changed, new
Really?
people, whatever.
Okay.
But it was the penny savers, paper advertising, radio stations that actually made the rodeo as big as it was.
Okay. So the advertising. So you
We used television once and didn't work too good.
didn't work too good. But radio, paper ads, newspaper ads, I take it, the Attica penny saver, that's what got the word out.
Yeah,
And-
every penny saver from Ithaca, New York, to the Pennsylvania line this way, and from Lake Ontario to the Pennsylvania line that way. Every penny saver was advertised in.
Okay.
And radio stations, not the big name stations, just
Yeah.
a couple of them,
Yeah.
and but mostly a lot of locals.
Okay.
Hornell Station had one, Dansville has one, and the Batavia, and
Yeah.
I just don't remember all of them
Yeah.
right now.
So the first year you have this good crowd show up for the very first one?
We thought it was.
Yeah.
We took in $900, man.
Okay. What were you charging at the gate? Do you remember?
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay.
We had a big fight over that.
We're going to get to rodeo committees and how they operate here in a bit.
I wanted to charge $1 a head
Yeah.
for adults.
For adults. Okay.
We're only going to charge 90 cents.
Over a dime. A dime's a lot, right?
So they voted between the dozen guys there,
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
and they voted for the 90 cents.
90 cents.
So I lost.
Okay. Okay.
And your ticket takers had to make change for every dollar bill,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Look, but
yeah,
you look at back then, you see posters and everything, $3 for concerts and things like that.
Yeah.
A dollar wasn't chump change.
No, exactly. 1957, right? What and you weren't working full time yet in 1957, but what was a week's wage for somebody back then?
Well, let's see. In 17, 18, during the summer, I worked with my father in construction work building,
Yeah.
and my take home was $40 a week.
$40 a week. Yeah.
$48. Then they took out the
Then
taxes.
they took out taxes. $48 a week. Okay.
And
I
we all know
I
our
was-
parents pay so good.
And my first wages working for my grandfather on
Yeah.
he had a big dairy farm,
Yeah.
was $3 a day and noon
Yeah.
meal.
Yeah. Yeah.
$18 a week,
That's
6 days a week.
Absolute 6 days a week. From when to when? What time? What time of the day?
8 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock in the morning until everything was done that
Dark,
night.
Yeah.
probably.
Till dark, right? Did you milk cows?
No,
No.
the hired man and my uncle were the ones that milked the cows.
Yeah.
Because they had the knowledge
Yeah.
and they were properly trained.
Right. Right.
We were kind of young to do that, but
Yeah. Yeah.
later on we did.
Okay. So June of 1957, you brought in $900. What were you charging for kids?
I don't know if it was a quarter.
Okay. Okay. All right. And it sounds like then you had a pretty darn good turnout if you brought $900 in at the gate.
Well, the fence was lined on each side with cars.
Okay. Okay.
And then of course, we had a food stand too. We built out of 2x4s
cow.
and junk wood and
Yeah.
put a roof on it. And
Yeah.
it was about 12 by 16. And had a grill in there, and they cooked the hamburgers and hot dogs.
Okay. And you had a beer tent back then?
No,
No such thing at that point.
didn't start at that. We weren't old enough to drink.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
Go back to the hard
Not
cider
legally.
story.
Not legally.
Oh, okay.
Is what he meant to say, I think. So, June of 57, you have your first show. You would say that was a success. The committee said...
Yeah, we thought it was because we
made
went
some
on,
money.
We just kept going on with it.
Okay. And then, when did you have... Was that a rodeo in June of 57, or was that a horse show?
Rodeo.
So, let's talk a little bit. Who was your stock contractor? 1957, June.
Attica Rodeo.
Attica Rodeo was the stock
It was
contractor.
actually the Attica and Chaffee Rodeo.
Attica and Chaffee.
Our original name was Attica and Chaffee. Then 3 years later, approximately, we changed it to Attica Rodeo and became incorporated. Because originally Dick Holton, who was from Chaffee, and some of his buddies had joined later on, and there's a Bill guy that joined from Chaffee, who was a good friend of Dick's, and he pretty much got killed in a car accident after that first year, and never came back because he was crippled up for a year in the car accident.
Oh my. Okay.
But since he's come back and visited,
Yeah.
Bill Morris,
Morris.
he was one of the original members.
So it was originally called the Attica and Chaffee, and that's because Chaffee's a town.
Yep.
Okay. And I just heard you say 3 years later, in 1960, you incorporated. 1960, pretty young crew, and you said, we need to incorporate. Why would you incorporate?
It was a thing to do.
Liability and that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And from the beginning, you guys weren't just, my takeaway is you guys weren't just, oh, let's have fun, put on a rodeo. No, this is business. Did it feel like a business from the beginning?
Yeah.
Okay.
We knew we had to make money
Yeah.
to survive.
Okay.
And so we had to make money to put on rodeos, so we made money.
Yeah.
And at different times over the years, we've gone to the bank, and thanks to Chet Watson, who ran the bank in Attica, he cooperated with us and gave us mortgages, personal loans. The one year when we fired the ERA, or they blackballed us.
Yeah. I heard that. So the ERA blackballed you.
The deal was they wanted us to follow their rules,
Okay.
which entailed a one and a half hour show.
They
And
limited
they
the
had,
show.
They had joined, the Parker brothers had joined our rodeo club to learn how to run a rodeo.
Really?
So then after they ran a couple of them, they decided they're going to tell us what to do and only run an hour and a half rodeo. We ran 2.5, 3 hour rodeos.
Right.
Spectators are paying for it.
Okay.
Give them their money's worth.
Yeah.
So I was rodeo chairman most of them years.
Yeah.
Arena director.
Yeah.
And stock feeder and everything else. But anyway, we had a lot of good guys in the club.
So
I fired ERA.
fired ERA. What year was that, Dave?
I don't remember. It had to be around 60.
1960.
Wait, no, 63, because I got that book home that says ERA finals in 1963. So I fired him in 1964.
I thought it was
We had
later
to
than that.
I think it was 73.
Yeah, because I remember sitting up home on Exchange Street, Judy Sawyer sitting at our kitchen table. That was the last year that I believe it was our first open horse show, and Judy Sawyer was taking entries at our kitchen table. People were calling the house, and we were trying to pull in people from a lot of, now I'm 10 years old at this time.
Okay.
So this is my memory at 10 years old. And calling in guys that they didn't want to be in bad standings with the ERA.
Yeah.
So they were riding under assumed names
Really?
in our open
Okay.
show so that they
Okay.
could come and run and ride.
Okay.
Yeah, Bernie Buck, you never hear of him?
So 1973. This was. So let me go back a couple years earlier. You had mentioned Mr. Watson at the bank. Was this when you veered close to problems? This was the first big challenge financially? When the ERA said you're gonna ban it? No, years before you'd had some problems.
We had a stock contractor, don't remember his name anymore, that came in with junk equipment and junk stock one year.
Okay.
And we put on a inferior rodeo.
Yeah.
He's the first stock contractor I fired.
Okay.
I fired 4 altogether.
So was he the first
I
stock?
never fired Sam Swearingen because he was the best.
Yes. Yes.
And he was always taking care of the cowboys, the spectators, and the organization.
Absolutely.
I'll pay you later, Dave. Thank you.
Yeah, that was very nice. So the original stock contractor you said was Attica and Chafee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Name of it, yeah.
Yeah. And then it just went to Attica, and Attica itself was a stock contractor. You had your own stock. You could gather up your stock.
We would gather up all the cattle stock for sure.
Okay.
And the bulls for a while. Then we hired Bud Chase out of Connecticut.
Perfect. Bud Chase. That was your first outside of your organization?
Legitimate contractor.
Yeah.
And Milo Hetherington from Canada had the bucking horses. And he had 10 of the biggest, nicest you ever saw, and they could buck.
Yeah. And that was your first external stock contractor you brought in. And how'd you find these contractors? You said Connecticut?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a ways away, right? Not next door. I mean, you went out of state to find them.
I used to travel to horse sales all the time, too. And like Unadilla is not that far from Connecticut. And whether I met him there or...
Do you remember? Yeah.
I don't remember.
Okay. But you said, you're our guy. Bud came in. And then you had horses coming in, broncs coming in out of Canada. And do you remember how that went when the first year? Did that lessen your guys' load as a committee? Now you're not going find cattle and everything.
We were still working the pens.
Still working the pens. Okay.
In the chutes and whatever, the gates. And feeding the stock. And it wasn't until, jumping way ahead.
Yeah.
We had the stock contractor start doing it when the second year Dave Martin was there. You had basically 150 head of stock.
Yeah.
Grain, water, feed.
Yeah.
And we didn't have roof over the back pens at that time. You had an alleyway down the center.
Yeah.
And I'm walking out there, tell them what to do. And next thing I know, I see him running down to the end of the pen, over the fence, down the driveway, over to the beer stand. You guess who fed all that stock that night?
Okay. So
and I told Martin, I says, at the end of that rodeo, I says, Dave, next year you put your bid in to do all the pen work and all the stock work, all the feeding.
Okay. So what year was that? Dave Martin out of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Okay. How did you find Dave?
He had 2 different names for his rodeos. Keystone Rodeo, I think, was the last name he had.
Okay. And what do you remember the association that you would sanction at that point? Was it the APRA?
APRA.
APRA. APRA followed the ERA pretty closely. They came in pretty soon.
Yeah,
after
we went with Dave Dancy one year. We went straight PRCA.
What year would that have been? Dave?
Yeah, back there in those days.
Dave Dancy?
Well, that would have been before Dave Martin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, way before Dave Martin, before Zinzer.
And I think ERA was more New York State based.
Yeah. And
it was the Union Cowboy out of New York State.
The ERA would have ended around 75, 76. It dispersed. And I believe the year that they boycotted Attica was around 72, 73, because that's when they entered me in the bull riding, was that year, because they needed bull riders.
Okay. That was your first year in competition.
Yeah, because my father didn't like me. So
yes.
Let's see.
I heard that story.
We can raise more kids.
Yeah, but we can't get more bull riders today.
Yeah, exactly.
Not today.
They aren't coming.
All right, so let me back up and let's make sure I'm running down.
And you really cure your brother about bull riding. Not Mike.
Not Mike. Let me run down the list here, make sure I got this. First off, it was Attica and Chaffee was your stock contractor. Then it became Attica only in 1960, responsible for all the stock. Then Bud Chase out of Connecticut. And you had Bronx coming in out of Canada. Then Dave Dancy came in, and he was PRCA only. What year would that have been?
It would have been probably the late 60s, I would say.
Really? Okay.
It would be.
Well, I remember
Martin came in. Zinsser was there 1 year and
That would have been okay.
and so there was Dave, and then before Zinsser, Andy Camp was in there.
Andy Camp was there. Double R Rodeo.
Yeah, and Dancy was there before any of them guys, but I don't remember all these years.
Okay.
Dancy had to be in the 60s,
1960s.
probably.
Yeah.
Then Bud Chase came in the 70s.
in the 70s.
Early 70s.
Dave Martin was in the 80s.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, well,
I think Bud is before Dancy, I think.
but
I think maybe I'm wrong.
I don't
don't-
ever remember Dave Dancy.
I don't remember
being
Dave
there.
Dancy. I remember Bud Chase.
I know the
from
name,
Bud
but
Chase
I don't
forward.
even know Dave Dancy. So it had
Well,
to
he
be.
got killed, or he died,
Right, he got killed in a
He-
truck wreck or...
and he had his one of his drivers. The clutch blew up on his big tractor and blew the guy's leg off.
Oh, jeez.
And then Dancy kind of went backwards from there.
Yeah, but I don't remember him, so I would
In fact,
say
he
that
got
was
arrested.
probably the
He got
80s.
arrested in Attica because a couple of boys that climbed in the bullpen were harassing the bulls, and Dancy went right in there after him, beat the shit out of him.
Oh, jeez.
And Mom and Daddy called the troopers.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, okay.
And so I talked to the trooper to allow him to go down during intermission to
Yeah.
see the judge and get him back at the end of the rodeo.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Okay.
Oh,
Show must go on.
the Wild West in
Oh,
western New York.
I guess so. So, do you remember the PRCA years, right? And was that kind of, it sounds like in maybe the scheme of things, that might have been what tripped up the ERA?
No,
No.
ERA tripped themselves up.
ERA tripped up themselves. Okay.
They had nothing to do with the APRA or the PRCA.
And who was your stock contractor with the ERA?
I thought that was Bud Chase.
Would
Yeah,
that
like
be?
I
And
say,
that's a very good possibility.
Okay. Bud Chase out of Connecticut. He was ERA.
Bud had excellent horses.
Yeah.
And then when got said and done, he had a big Palomino stud named gelding named Moon. And that horse would come out of the chute. His feet would be higher than the gates when he came out of the chute. And I could still see Eddie Prozier riding that son of a gun.
I think I got a picture of him leaving the chute
Do
down
you
in
really?
the basement somewhere.
All right. We want to get a picture of that for
I
sure.
think so.
He was probably one of the best bucking horses for 20 plus years.
Okay.
And when he ended up getting sold into, what's the guy's name down in Virginia? They had rodeo going 30, 40 years ago. Had a pretty good deal. He was an APRA.
I know Dave Martin ended up with him before it was all said and
Well, that
done.
was after.
Yeah.
'Cause I
So
know-
the guy in Virginia could have been,
You say his
no,
name.
it was Maryland.
He's one had Eddie Phillips's bucking horses too.
Hmm.
That Appaloosa mare and the Morgan horse went to him from Eddie.
I can't think.
I can't
who it
think
is.
of his name.
So picking up, if I've got this right, and I'm typing this as we go, following Bud Chase would have been Jim Zinsser or Andy
No.
Camp.
Well,
No, Andy Camp was before Martin.
Okay, and he would have been the 1980s as well. Andy Camp,
probably early 80s.
1980s,
I don't know.
and then you had Jim for 1 year, Zinsser for 1 year. He was in the 1980s. Is that true?
He would have been late because
Would have
well,
been-
Dave
well, when
Martin
did you
was
start?
before, then Zinsser, and then Dave Martin again, I believe. Is that right? Or
No, Martin was straight.
Yeah.
straight through? So Zinsser probably would have been before Dave Martin.
Yes.
Okay.
And then Sam picks it up in the late 80s.
Maybe 90s-ish.
Because you started a rodeo company in 1987.
Yeah, but I didn't get the contract up there for 4 or 5 years.
No,
Okay.
you were just when you got our contract, you were only leasing horses to Martin.
Yeah.
And,
Now,
and you came to him and you said, "Can I bid on the Attica Rodeo?" And I said, "Yes," but I said, "I recommend you talk to Dave Martin and tell him what you're going to."
And thank you for all the order of this. I didn't realize there was that many stock contractors. And I didn't realize you guys had started it on your own. And I had heard a story, and I don't remember if Mike told me the story. When the ERA went away, you were back to providing your own stock again. You called Jim Swearingen and got some horses, got some...
Yeah.
Right? You did it yourself again.
Yeah, Jim had the Bronx. string of brocks that Sam took over and started his business with.
Okay. And you did that 1 year just to let's get it off. Let's have our rodeo.
And it was Jim and Mike and I that called all these riders from Canada and Mideast, Midwest, whatever.
Okay.
To come to the rodeo, and
Yeah.
they all came.
So.
And we had a full commitment of riders.
Okay. And so you're done with the ERA. You're moving on to other things. You started, the first rodeo was in June of 1957. When did August, the first full weekend of August, become?
You're getting awful technical.
I am. Do you remember?
It wasn't the start.
The first rodeo could have been in August too. I don't remember.
Okay.
See?
Okay. But that's it became a permanent thing at a certain point.
Yeah.
Where you said
Summer of 1957. That's a good way to put it.
Okay, summer 1957, August. You said this is our date from here forward.
Yeah, and that's when it started.
Okay.
And horse shows started that year also.
So how many horse shows might you do a year?
We usually did one a month.
Really?
And we would have 9 classes. We started with 9 classes.
So games, pleasure, equitation, halter, that sort of stuff? No halter.
Back then.
Okay.
We didn't know what a halter horse was back then.
Right. Did you have ropins?
We knew what their good-looking horses were.
Yeah.
Later on, we added roping to the horse shows for a while.
You did? Okay. And you had mentioned, and I want to get back to this because this episode's about the business of rodeo. You know, we talk with a lot of competitors, and they talk about a lot of great rides and a lot of great rodeos. We've talked with contract acts, you know, clowns, and certainly they're part of it, pickup men, all that stuff. But we haven't really talked to anybody that says we're putting up the financial commitment to put on this rodeo. We are taking a risk every time we sign a contract with a stock contractor and these rodeo contract acts, and I've got this much money. I know what it's going to cost me. I need to get butts in the seats, right? And what were some of the early challenges of that from the business? You talk about Mr. Watson at the bank. He was willing to give.
We never really looked at them as challenges or problems. We just went and did what we had to do.
Okay.
You know, so when you say challenges and problems, that's a high-tech word to me.
That's okay. You're running a business, and
we knew we had to advertise.
Yeah.
We knew we had to satisfy the spectators, number one.
Yeah.
We had to satisfy the contestants, number 2.
Yeah.
And the organization, number 3.
Yeah.
But we put all 3 on the same level.
For sure.
And if you don't do your advertising, and eventually we learned you had to have sponsors also.
Yeah.
To bring the money in.
When did you start bringing sponsors in?
I'm going to say maybe 20 years ago.
20 years ago. And that just evolved. That just started to become a thing in rodeo, and you guys picked it up.
Well, I see all these, thinking about money.
Yeah.
Because this is kind of a year-round commitment in one sense. But think about money in different ways of getting it. I'm watching these professionals, the big-time professionals, and they're getting all these sponsors for their rodeos.
Uh-huh.
So why isn't Attica getting a sponsor?
Yeah.
Why are we just selling ads in a program book?
Okay.
So I started thinking about it and talking about it to different guys in the club, and this Alfred Vaughn, who just joined the club, and he boarded with me for 5 years, and he learned about horses, I guess, at our place, and
Okay.
and he's gone on with it, and he's become a president, so on and so forth, and director of the club as the years went by. And he's the one that I asked him if he'd start doing the sponsoring.
Yeah. Oh, so he'd go out and visit with the sponsors and bring in the money.
And he'd get it done.
Okay.
And he'd write the contracts for them, and that had different contracts for different sizes or whatever.
Yeah.
And he did a hell of a job getting it started.
Yeah.
But sometimes guys get tired of doing something after a while.
Yeah.
And it drops off a little bit.
Yeah.
But now you've got to have another business type person step up in the club to continue on with this. He's still doing some.
Right.
Gene Rauenstroud has done some sponsoring.
Yep.
And he did a hell of a job getting the chute gates signs up there for us.
I see.
And
to the financial aspect of it, money's money, as you said. With sponsors, did that had to begin to mitigate the risk if the fans didn't show up because of rain or weather or whatever it might be? Was your goal to cover X amount of the overhead so that you had that covered regardless?
Well, we wanted the overhead for the year covered, period.
You did.
But it also enabled us to expand different features of the facilities.
Okay.
And that's when we put that new barn up down there.
Yeah.
Which Brad Johnson and Dirk Foster were responsible for. Even though they set the poles kitty cockeyed first. And I asked him why. And I said, maybe you better go up and talk to my father. This is just tidbit information.
He's a general contractor.
So Dirk went up and talked to my dad. Dad came down and measured everything out right. They pulled the poles and reset them where they belonged. But they were responsible for putting the barn up.
Okay.
Well, thank goodness for that, because usually Attica used to be drought relief weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the weather.
Yeah.
So along those lines, were the years where you lost money in the rodeo? Never lost money.
We never lost money.
Never lost money. Always was able to cover your contractor, and wow, that is so impressive. That is super
Like I say, we've
impressive.
gone to the bank for mortgage money in the past. The one year after we had we'll call it a shake-up in a club,
Okay.
and we went from 43 members to 9,
Holy cow.
and the 9 of us put the rodeo on that year. There were no funds, basically, so each of us went to Chet Watson at the bank and we each borrowed equal amounts of money
Do you remember how
on our
much that
personal
was?
on our personal notes.
On personal notes. You remember how much that was?
No, not really.
Okay.
I could
And that
lie
would
to
have
you.
been...
I ain't gonna lie to you.
No, that's fine. That would have been 19...
Yep. You're right.
Early on? Early on? I mean, first off...
I was still in the dairy farm, my dairy farm at the
It
time.
was in the
So
70s
In
then.
the 1970s.
Early 70s.
Okay. Because when you started, the original rodeo committee sounded like it wasn't very big. 10 people, maybe?
you had one rodeo chairman,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then the other guys, if you wanted help, you asked them for it.
Okay.
You didn't really have a big committee over
You
the
didn't have a
years.
committee.
But didn't you start off with like 18 official members? Was it 18, 20 official members? Because I remember you naming people off at one
Originally, we
point.
started with 12.
Okay. Okay.
So originally, 12... Did it cost you...
That was in 1957. The 12 signed a membership book.
So 12 members. Did it cost you to be a member?
Cost us $20 a month.
So okay. So for me to be a member, I would come in, you'd do whatever, you'd say, yep, you can be a member, sign here, send us your $20 every month.
And that was part of our operating cost. That's what we used it. Part of the money we used to start with,
That's what you use to start with.
besides Mr. Putnam's help.
Yes.
So let me get this straight.
Yeah.
To come and work all summer long, you're paying $20 a month to do
Yeah, but it was fun.
it. All right.
And
getting bucked off a horse or stopped by a bull or Coach Walker, he goes, we're steer wrestle practicing down one night down there. He always wore a white shirt, cowboy shirt. Coach always wore a white cowboy shirt.
Yeah.
And we're practicing steer wrestling one night.
yeah.
And him and Glenn, this Glenn guy, we're going down through. Pudge goes off on a steer. He gets him, goes down, throws him. He stands up. His white shirt is all red. He thought he was dead.
Oh my goodness.
The horn broke off.
Oh.
He spurted blood all over his white shirt.
Wow. Okay.
He never steer wrestled again.
I would think not. So let me get this straight. Not only are you pulling chute gates and feeding cattle and everything in the early years, you also, everybody competed? You were still calf roping?
Well, most everybody got into competition one way or another.
They did.
And we used to have the wild steer race
Yeah.
where you had 3 guys, and you had a guy with a mugger,
Okay.
and a guy was on a rope.
Wasn't milking this time.
No.
No.
And you had to saddle a goddamn steer and ride him across the finish line.
Okay. Where did you find that one? Who came up with that idea?
Some dumb cowboy.
No, it sounds like a great event. So you had
We used to do stuff like that up to Dean's back in the early 50s when we started fussing around.
So if I were to come to the rodeo in 1960, right? Just think of that August, first full weekend in August, right? I would come to that rodeo, probably going to pay maybe not 90 cents anymore, maybe $1 to get in. And I'm going to watch the general rodeo events, bareback broncs, saddle broncs, bulls, team roping?
No.
Steer wrestling for sure, calf roping, cowgirl barrel racing, bull riding, wild steer riding, or wild steer, what'd you call it? Wild steer
Race.
So we'd see that too.
Originally.
Yeah,
I forgot what year we quit that.
Oh, you quit. And this wasn't a competition they practiced for all year. It could go.
No, it was basically members and family members and so on and so forth that get in on this deal.
Okay.
Anybody that wanted to.
Okay.
And we turn them all out at once. With a guy with a rope.
Yeah.
And holding the gall darn thing.
Yeah.
The mugger come out and grab the darn thing, and the other guy's trying to saddle him.
Okay.
We have them all out at once.
Okay.
That way it made it more interesting.
Yeah, that would be. A lot of wrecks. And again, helmets
right.
and protective vests and shin guards and all that stuff they wore. Right?
You have to give me a definition what those things are.
So when did you, one of the things Attica's always been famous for is the calf scramble, kids calf scramble. When did that come in place?
I would say originally.
Said, let's do something for the kids.
Yeah.
Mutton busting?
They came in after I was seeing, 60s or 70s. We did it for a few years.
I don't remember. I remember.
Josie's a 96 model, as you would say. And so it was in the early 2000s when we stopped because she was in the last open chute and out they go.
And yeah, I don't know if I was the first one to do the mutton busting, but I did the mutton busting at the rodeos. And
Yeah.
I think probably you're right.
As a competitor, you mean?
No. Yeah.
His muttons weighed about 1,600 pounds.
Yeah.
But
Some only 1,200.
Yeah.
we had to have about 40 or 50 sheep.
Yeah.
And it was the wildest thing you ever wanted to see. When I told Dave, we talked about it, and I said, there's going to be so many kids, there's no way we can do this in a timely manner. It's going to take 3 hours for the mutton busting, you know? And you're going to have kids crying because they couldn't get on, So he says, well, let's do them all at once. I said, what? He said, let's turn them out all at once. It was the wildest thing you ever seen.
Oh, my goodness.
It was great.
And the kids had fun?
Well, some did, some didn't. But we turned them out all at once. Last man on is the winner. Last lady, whoever was it, you know. Craziest thing you ever seen.
And the tack shop boys gave him an award.
Okay.
Mutton busting or the calf scramble.
Okay. So you had 12 original members on the committee. I'm going to go back to that. You said it ballooned up to about 40. And then there was some sort of a Saturday night massacre, it sounds like. And it became 9.
Yeah.
When was that? Do you remember?
A couple of days ago.
But every so often you got to restructure, right? So how is the rodeo committee?
You kick out that don't want to work and don't want to produce.
Okay. They still have
They want to come and sit in the rodeo stands and watch the rodeo.
Yeah.
For their $20 and bring the whole family.
Okay.
Get out.
Now, after you kick
So
them
we
out.
voted them out.
Vote them out. Wow.
It's in our bylaws.
You got that.
We're
You can
chartered.
vote people
We're a chartered
out.
New York State corporation.
Yeah.
With bylaws who are written by lawyers out of Buffalo.
Wow. Okay.
And everything is legit. And
Oh,
if
my
you change
goodness.
your bylaws, you have to go through the State Charter Commission, whatever they call it.
Yeah. So you voted them out. You still get to keep their $20 a month for forever at that point, or no? They're $20 heads.
They're done.
They're done.
What they paid in so far, they're done.
They're done. So no buyout.
No.
Nope.
No buyout.
No buyout. Nope. So what?
Nobody owns anything in the corporation either.
It's technically a volunteer organization.
Volunteer organization.
Strictly volunteer. Nobody is allowed to be paid.
Okay.
According to our New York State Charter.
Okay. What are you allowed to do with the money?
Spend it on donations to...
Charitable donations.
That's a good word.
Organizations around.
Local volunteer organizations like the fire department, EMS, our local youth athletics, the library.
Yep.
And then overall operating funds. We put it back in to have for like our horse shows, our barrel racing, our cattle penning that are weekly events during the summer, and to help support them and bring things.
Yeah. Do you have an idea of how many dollars you have donated to the community over the years, roughly? 65 years. And when would you have started donating? It had to be in a place where you go, okay, we feel kind of solid.
I think probably originally was when they first had the ambulance there, which Marley Funeral Home, Dick Marley owned the ambulance at that time.
Yeah.
But he would donate it. The fireman would be on call for any problems, and we would donate to the fire department. It was the first we donated to. And when Dick sold the ambulance to the fire department, we increased the donation to the ambulance fund.
Okay.
Which I think we give them $1 or $2.
Now, I don't want to get hurt.
What does that mean?
The guy that owns is supplying the ambulance.
Yes.
Is the funeral home director.
Right.
So if you're just hurt your finger, you might be funeral in the next 3 days. So I don't want to get hurt.
Did you know that back then?
Huh?
Did you know that back then?
No. I just thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah,
he owned a funeral home too.
And he was my mother's cousin.
Yes. So you go to 40 members, you drop back down to 9. What seemed to be for those, let's say from the 70s, 80s, that 90s, what seemed to be the right committee size that just worked? And did it become structured to where you're responsible for this, you're responsible for this, you're responsible for that?
Always had one person responsible for each division.
Okay, what are your divisions?
Well, you got your horse shows, your team penning, sorting now, and your beer stand, your food stand,
holy cow,
horse shows, so on.
Okay, and
one person is the leader in each one of those divisions.
Yeah,
and then they pick the people they want that might help them.
That are also members, paying members.
Not all of them.
No. That was one of my other questions. How many volunteers when it comes time to put on the rodeo?
Originally, we had all family and friend volunteers, which helped with 100 people we needed, we'll say.
Okay.
And you only had, originally we had, membership changed. The last 20 years it's been 50 plus. But previously it was 30 probably plus.
Okay. When did you bring in the cattle penning?
I'd say in the 70s.
30 plus years ago.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you had another division, cattle penning and...
No, it's ranch sorting. And they alternate weekends alternate Fridays. It's cattle penning and ranch sorting. When did you bring in the ranch sorting? That's new? I'm going to say that in the last 3 years, 4 years.
Maybe 5, something like that.
And
but that's not in the rodeo. That's
Yeah.
just a separate deal with the team penning structure.
But the cattle penning is in the rodeo.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
it seems to be one of the bigger spectator sports.
We were talking about that earlier. Yeah, that the crowd really enjoys that. Absolutely.
Because they see cowboys and cowgirls chasing wild cows.
Plus, it's local. It's local people that, if you're sitting in the stand, you may know that person that's out.
You bet.
Because they're from the Western New York area.
Yeah. And to be clear to our listeners, when we talk about chasing cattle in this setting, No 22s, no 12 gauges, none of that, right? That was only Cowboys and Indians.
No, we don't even allow pistols in there for that.
Well, good, okay. Just
Because
trying
we had
to
a guy
tie
lose his
everything
pistol
together.
one night.
What?
We did have a guy lose his pistol
Oh.
down there one night
Oh my!
during a regular Friday night run.
Oh my! Oh my!
And so we stopped everything and we basically combed the sand to find him.
That's pretty irresponsible, is what that is. That's pretty irresponsible.
And up, you don't need that stuff because up over the hill,
Yeah.
you got sharpshooters in the towers.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Up at the that's true. So
And they are accurate.
Yeah, I would imagine.
so
on
horse
their
shows,
phone.
still putting on horse shows. We were there. Was it 2 years ago, Sam? We went in and watched the barrel racing.
Thursday night brewers.
Thursday night barrel racing. You're still doing Thursday night barrel racing.
Yeah.
Perfect. So the grounds are used a lot during the summer. And if I'm responsible for horse shows, that's when I'm there. Now, I may pitch in during the rodeo. Everybody pitches in during the rodeo. But my job is to organize and make sure the horse shows go off the way they need to. Okay. So I'm interested still in the financial challenges of
Yeah.
things.
So we also have clinics we put on down there too.
So Skeet Barrett does her barrel racing clinic. What
Yep.
other clinics do you have down there?
We've had last year. Derek Partridge came in and did a ranch sorting clinic.
Okay.
We've had Julia
Horsemanship clinics.
Goodnight horsemanship clinics.
Very nice.
Luke Reinbold.
Very nice.
Stuff like that.
Okay. So the ground is used. So the vision of Mr. Putnam. He said, I'm going to donate this to you boys. And when you bought the railroad right away and turned it into a driveway, when did you pick up the other side where they park on the other side of the driveway coming
It
in
was
the main
in the
line?
early 60s.
In early 60s.
A man named Hooven owned it. He let us use it for quite a few years. And say the mid 60s, he sold that land to us. And we purchased that with a mortgage.
With a mortgage. Okay, so Mr. Watson comes in. The rodeo committee, the rodeo corporation itself, which is a not-for-profit, which is volunteer only, was able to get a mortgage, and it bought the land.
And the members signed their name on the mortgage.
Yeah, so guarantees by the members.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was expanded. Was that the last of the land purchases for you?
Yes, we gained another approximately 12 acres free because our deed runs to the creek.
To the creek. Behind
And the creek took part of Gene Redding's land
Yeah.
and what's Dirk Foster's land today
Yeah.
and swallowed up their land
Because the creek
and
moved.
put it on our side.
Oh my! Because the creek moved.
Yeah.
Really?
So we gained. There's a row of poles that go, light poles go across the middle of that parking lot out there.
Yeah.
That's where the original bank was.
Okay.
And 3 times we brought in bulldozers over the years as the creek moved,
To fill it in.
fill in and move back the brush.
Oh my goodness. Okay. And originally there was the railroad trestle. This makes sense to me now.
Yeah.
There was the old railroad trestle that had the abutments. Joe Farley told a story. He was 8, 9, maybe, and some young man jumped off and made a mess of
Red
things.
Weatherby's son.
Yeah.
Made a mess of things. So
He cracked his skull. There's pilings down there.
Yep.
And he cracked his head on it and kind of made him from a big, strong, smart kid to a kind of a dummy.
Oh my. Hit that hard.
Yeah, Red Weatherby and Bernie Miller always ran our calf chutes for years and years.
Yeah.
Volunteers.
Yeah.
And they lived nowhere near us.
Really.
They just loved rodeo.
They loved rodeo and come in and help promote it and that sort of thing. What other events have come and gone? So you had the wild steer race. What other events? Yeah.
We had an event one time that our club competed against Smoke Creek Riders out of West Seneca. And it was kind of an all-game, oddball game type thing. And we had Ed Kilgore, who was a radio TV announcer out of Buffalo, came down and announced it. And our 2 clubs went head-to-head on this competition situation. And It was quite a competition. I don't know who drank the most, but
That was the competition? Now, that wasn't in the rodeo arena, was it?
yeah,
It was?
yeah, not the drinking.
No.
And at the same time, toward the end of the evening, a flood came in again.
Yeah.
We had a foot of water in front of the food stand.
Yeah.
And all these drunks are trying to get their trucks and trailers and wives and everything out of there.
Yeah.
Let's just say in the 60s and 70s, and maybe the early 80s,
Yeah.
things were a lot wilder,
Yeah.
and there was. I don't want to say freer, but there wasn't the no, you can't do this event because you're going to get hurt.
Right.
So now, since then, by the wayside has gone musical bags, where you would be like the musical chairs.
Yeah.
Or stall race along the same line. You go around the pylons in a circle, music stops, and you either race to a bag or race to a standing stall.
Yeah.
Well, that's been deemed too dangerous
I see.
now in today's atmosphere.
Yeah.
Mommy's today atmosphere with their little babies.
So this is as the pill was being invented, where you couldn't raise more kids to replace the ones you kill off.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I
There
see.
you go.
So you've taken me to an interesting place. You had the risk. You had riders that showed up, and I'm talking the '60s, and back then everybody kind of assumed the risk.
And those risks, I was actually able to be part of those risks, and they were fun.
Yeah.
And it was enjoyable. You laughed, you enjoyed. It was fun competition.
Yeah.
I remember once, and it was probably one of the last times we did the stall race. Robin Nichols, who is now Robin Swearingen,
Yeah.
myself,
Yeah.
and Gene Carnes.
Yeah.
We stall race, final three.
Yeah.
We kicked everybody else out,
Yeah.
and it came down to the three of us.
Yeah.
And Robin and I, Gene was gone.
Gene was gone.
It was left to us. Robin ended up winning the event. I took second,
Okay.
but that
Okay.
was kind of...
Okay, what's a stall race?
Yeah. Describe that to
I
us.
have
Okay.
no clue.
Stall race is you have
You got 10
Locust
riders. Start with
posts.
10 riders.
well, I'm starting with the locust posts
Okay.
that you put through your box wire fence so that you have standing stalls
For the horses.
for the horses.
Okay.
Okay. And it's like the musical chairs where you have one less stall than you have riders.
Okay.
So if you have 10 riders, you only have 9 stalls.
Yeah.
You run around, you have pylons that form like a square
Yeah.
circle
Yeah.
In the center of the arena.
Yeah.
And you're playing music.
Yeah.
And so you lope, jog, walk, stall, whatever,
Horseback, on horseback.
all on horseback.
Yeah.
Keeping your eye on who's around you and where those stalls are and where you're in relation to. Because when that music is turned off, all hell breaks loose and you get to an empty stall.
No matter what. It's
No
okay
matter
to
what.
ride over the other person.
Ride over the other person if you need to. And if 2 people hit the same stall at the same time,
Fight it out.
you ride it out. You have everybody else stays in their stalls.
Yeah.
And those 2 people ride it out.
Okay.
But if somebody misses that stall by half a second,
Yeah.
the first person in gets
Sorry,
that stall,
I'm here.
you're
Boom.
out.
So you just ride head on.
Head on. Yes. So if you're like on the opposite side of
If
the
you're
arena,
smart, you teach your
you
horse
just
how to kick.
run.
And then
Run,
you cue
cut
him to
through the
kick the
center.
other
So
horse and come
basically, you go
alongside you.
fast
Yeah.
until you get near the stalls, you slow down. You go fast
Yeah.
until you get near the stall, you slow down.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
I get it now.
Were
I
there
never
fist
heard of it.
fights? Elbowing?
That was his generation.
That was a prominent game back in the days.
Really? At the horse shows and such?
You had 40 guys in foot 1 classes.
I had never heard this.
never heard of it.
I have never heard this. Now, I've heard of the musical chairs. Now, the rule was in the musical chairs, you had to bail off and get on a chair
Bag.
Oh, no.
or a back.
Yeah. Yes.
But you had to dismount and get on.
Yes.
unless you ran the guy over like Ronnie Q, you'd run him over and rip his shirt off his back, and then you'd grab the bag.
And would he get ejected for?
No.
Or would he get a foul or
No.
lose points
He
or
would
anything?
get a bag.
Don't do that again.
Don't do that again. And he did again. You go, really? You got to stop.
Didn't
doing
you
this.
hear me the first time?
Yeah. If you do that again,
I have seen Jack Lux and Ronnie Keel in fist-to-fist battles in a bag race in the arena.
In the arena. I mean,
during the event.
They're serious.
Yes, they are.
They're serious.
When they come out with bloodied faces and shirts ripped off their backs.
You bet.
And Carmen Blackfocal was like that too. And he had the horse. The black was trained to kick out in a competition stall race.
And the horse would kick the others?
He would kick the other horse and scare them away.
Okay. So
you had a lot of good guys riding back in those days.
Yeah, and anything goes because we're riding for a big prize.
Yeah, maybe a blue ribbon.
What did it pay to win?
Well, sometimes you had a bag of feed.
No checks. No checks.
Maybe a couple silver dollars.
Okay.
I did win 120 silver dollars at a show in East Aurora one time. That's how they paid out, silver dollars.
Silver dollars, real silver dollars.
And my horse was grand champion of the show. 120 silver dollars.
That's in what year?
Probably 1958 or 9.
So those would have been Eisenhower's silver dollars?
Yes.
You still have them?
I have a couple in my dresser drawer.
You still have them?
Somehow a lot of them disappeared. I don't know. I got a few left there.
Well, but
good thing she took them. You'd have spent it and bought another horse.
Probably.
I don't have that many.
We have problems, Dave.
So at a certain point, the Wild West feel, fist fights and so forth in the arena, you had the risk. The risk started to come in, right? As that was becoming less acceptable, whenever that was. So what year do you remember that you had to buy insurance?
I think we've always had insurance because we had the business-minded people within the club that knew that.
From the beginning, so like a liability insurance.
It was liability, and I think just recently in the past few years, and correct me if I'm wrong, they started buying insurance to cover
rainstorm,
weather. Yeah, right. So
to me is ridiculous.
Well,
it's a waste of money.
And I don't know. I mean,
it's been a waste of money.
Has it? Okay. I mean,
yes, but the minute that you don't buy it, we're going to have that storm like we had a few years back where the creek flooded.
I was director of the rodeo deal, we had that big storm.
Yes.
We had 3 feet of water down there where the parking is.
Yeah.
And it was starting to come over the bank by Wright's Corners over there.
Yep.
And
well, I remember pulling
our
truck.
It was a Sunday night show, and you could not see, standing right here at the fence, and there's the bulls coming out of the chute. You could not see the bulls coming out of the chute.
That was my 1 week, my one time off.
One of your last, no.
That was as bad as I've ever seen it. And I've been to a lot of rodeos in my life.
Yeah.
Pulling my truck and trailers, I had my little truck and trailer and the big truck and trailer there. My little trailer, I just gunned it, and I remember fins of water, or fans, or whatever you call it, just going out the side.
Water.
What is it?
Wings.
Wings.
Yeah.
Angel wings.
Please, Jesus, get me out of here. Send me your angels.
So weather insurance, for our listener, explain what that is.
I believe it's in the case of where if something happens, the weather is so bad and our attendance is down and we are unable to make our needs.
And I can explain this a little bit.
Thank you.
Okay.
Through the contracting end is they go, if you get X amount of rain, like a quarter of an inch, say, within 3 or 4 hours of the performance, maybe an hour into it, and they'll take it from like a local airport. So probably with Attica, it might be the Perry Airport, or Batavia is the closest one.
I see.
So if they get that much rain there, they pay you, depending on how much you pay for this, X amount of dollars.
It's a lump sum.
Right. No matter if it rains and you get, and stops within an hour of the performance.
Yep.
If it does that, and you still bring the people in, you still get paid that money.
You still get paid.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the way I understand it. I have had some committees that get it and done well, and I had some that say it's a waste of money.
Yeah.
It's playing the lottery type scenario.
And so they would insure just enough to cover hard costs, or what would they?
It all depends. And a lot of them, like North Washington, started getting it, but they only got it Friday and Saturday night. Their biggest crowd
Their
nights.
biggest crowd nights.
Yeah,
Okay.
they didn't buy it all.
And
Five
basically
performances.
depends on what your income was or what it's estimated to be.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Okay.
yeah, it's like any insurance. If you pay, the more you pay, the more money you'll get on the back end. Yeah, I know John Kent made out really good one year.
Okay.
Because the people were in there, and then it rained, and he got paid.
I see. And the show was still able to go on.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
We actually ran it late because that was bad.
Yeah.
The creek started coming up, and
Well, you've got that danger,
bad.
right? The creek behind you.
Yes.
Easy enough to come up and over?
Yes.
We had water as high as the food stand serving shelf down there
Really?
2 times.
So that's 3 foot, 3.5 foot?
Probably 4 because that's a foot higher off the ground than the ground level is.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
But what
Because
some,
there's a step up kind of the.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
but also what some people don't realize, that it could be raining up at the corner, up at the light by the post office and the bank,
Yeah.
and we have sunshine
Yeah.
and dry as a bone.
Okay.
And that's just a half a mile to not even a mile
Yeah.
down the road.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So we have the risks. We gotta, and you guys sound like from the very beginning. So if wannabe rodeo committee folks are listening, this is where we're kind of headed, right? You gotta cover your liabilities, right? And the stock contractor's got to bring his own or her own liability insurance with it as well. And then there's other insurances, it sounds like, for weather and so forth to cover. Sounds like from an advertising standpoint, you guys figured out pretty darn quickly we got to spend money to advertise. Can't depend on word of mouth.
And years ago, the IPRA sent out a booklet that told you basically how to run rodeo. But in it, it recommended that you spend 17% of your gross income on advertising.
Okay.
And we always tried to do that, except for the new people taking the club over. They don't want to do that.
And they
anymore.
wanted to drop back off 17%. And again, what was it? 17% of
Your gross.
gross gate. Okay. Gate and plus sponsors and so forth.
That was gross income.
Gross income. Okay. So 17%, pretty healthy number. And you said earlier.
Well, we used to spend, when I was running it, I used to spend 30,000 round figures in advertising.
Really?
And we would take in 200 to 250,000.
Okay.
If you had a bad year, weather-wise or something, you might drop down to 175.
Okay.
In the early years, like I said, we started out at 900, so
Yeah.
things progress.
Yeah. And was there a moment, I mean, these numbers are incredible, you know, when you're talking about a gate of 250,000 gross income,
Well, that's gate, food stand, beer stand,
sponsors, everything.
sponsors, everything.
As I said, gross.
Yeah.
Still
No,
a big number, right? Still
Yes,
a
it is.
big number. $900 the first year was gate only, or was that gate, food, and everything?
That was gate and food, that's all we had.
Okay. So when did you go, we're on to something from a financial standpoint, when did you see the numbers really start to come in? Some point you started at $900 all in. You've seen as high as $250,000 all in. When did you really see it go?
It just was a gradual.
Continuous all the way through. Every year a little bit
Because
better than the year
we learned a
before.
little more about the advertising and what you had to do, and we just kind of, it was a gradual incline, not cut and dried.
Okay.
the second year I did the rodeo. The first year it took a while for people to understand what they're going to get. And after that, it just took off.
Then, oh really? That's when, and it went from like 1,000 a year maybe to 250,000.
Yeah, 200.
Oh, wow.
263,000.
260.
I do
Be
remember
honest about it.
one year because Dave wouldn't let me start the rodeo till the food stand had backed off.
Okay.
And
Okay.
During
I
intermission.
said to him Sunday, I said, well, did you crack the $200,000 mark? And it was none of my business. And
Yeah.
he said, we've done a little better than that.
Okay.
I said, yeehaw. You know?
Yeah.
Okay,
So-
I'll get a raise next year.
And of the 250,000, and I know sponsors are in there. That's X number of dollars. Gate, walk-ins, gate, buy online, everything ahead of time. And food and the beer stand. And when did the beer stand come in? And did you see it? Was that a big deal when the beer stand came in?
It was probably in the 60s, early middle 60s.
Really? That early?
Roughly.
Okay. I didn't realize it was there that long.
And we built a shed out underneath where the one is now, the new one.
Okay.
There was an old shed there.
Okay. And the beer stand in the 1960s, we had heard a story that the police, the troopers, had asked you to start the beer stand because the cowboys were going downtown and created a bit of a ruckus after the rodeo.
Well, I don't know if the police ever told us that, but we knew that they were doing it. Them boys from Canada,
Yeah.
they just flat ass. They go to the old stage house up there one night,
Yeah.
and the one boy, he's swinging off the chandelier, comes down the stairs, and Deputy Dog comes up to the porch, and the boys all come out on the porch. He got back in his car and he drove away.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
They set the Attica Hotel on fire one night upstairs.
Oh, my.
It was an accident, of course.
Yeah, for sure.
And there was nothing serious that went on, just a few miscellaneous
Yeah.
fisticuffs.
Having fun. Yeah. So the beer stands in the 1960s. So you're pretty much containing all this pretty well. I mean, the cowboys are there.
We have the bands.
When did
also,
you have bands start?
When we started the beer stand.
Really? Back in the 60s, you said, let's entertain them. Let's keep them here.
Yeah.
And, oh, by the way, we got a place. If you want to pitch a tent over here, you can stay.
Right.
Right? Spend the weekend. So back
And we sold weekend tickets also. Not just nightly or daily or
Okay.
one performance tickets. We sold weekend tickets.
Okay. So share what you can share. Give me as much detail as you want. Let's say it's a $250,000 year. What percentage is food?
I'm going to say food was probably along the line of about $30,000.
Okay.
Beer stand was about the same,
Okay.
That was running about 18 to 20.
18 to 20.
Okay.
Our new man has brought it up to $53,000 this year on beer. $50,000 plus last year.
So what was the
Promotion.
you doubled your beer sales? So that's a lot of
It's just
beer.
Yeah, almost triple it.
Almost tripled it. Oh my God.
I think what it is, it depends on the bands that come in,
Really?
because the bands also bring in their following.
Okay.
The people, they may not be coming in for the actual rodeo.
Okay.
They're coming in to listen to the band and dance and party.
And that's free?
They pay an extra $5 to come through the gate
They do.
after the rodeo.
After the rodeo. So
Yeah.
$5.
But, and security stays at both gates.
Okay.
So that, and liquor and,
And security's real cops.
Really? Okay.
That we
So
hired.
town?
No,
No.
they're from,
it's a security
Security
company.
company. Okay.
But it's
they're
off
police
duty.
chiefs, police officers from different town and areas, Western New York, that he's put together.
Okay. So $5, no beer in, no beer out.
No beer in, no beer out.
No
Okay.
whiskey in, no whiskey out.
No whiskey, but you're not serving whiskey.
Yes.
Yes, we do now.
Whiskey.
When we got the sponsorship for
Pendleton.
we opened up off to the side by the in the beer stand by the little where the band stand is off to the side.
Yeah.
There's a little corned off area.
Yeah.
Where one of the local bars comes in with their liquor license.
Okay.
We get the beer license, beer and wine license.
Yep.
But then one of our local bars, which I think right now is up in Darien, and I can't think of the name off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But they bring in with their liquor license, and then they serve the hard liquor.
Okay.
And,
Okay.
But you cannot leave that area. You're not supposed to leave that area with the liquor.
I
Oh,
see.
we have an officer standing at the
I see.
gate, so they can't
Okay.
get good.
But I can stand in that area, hear the bands, partake,
Yes, you can.
all that sort of thing.
You can hear the band. You can see the band because it's lattice.
Okay.
There's a lattice that separates everything.
And if I'm part of the beer stand crowd, I can move about a bit, right?
You can go in, the entire food stand bleacher area
Yeah.
is available for you to, if you want to get away from the beer stand for a little bit, you can go sit on the bleachers and watch if there's slack going on in the arena after the rodeo.
Okay.
But you're not allowed to carry any beer outside of either of the gates.
I see.
Into any of the
We have
parking
an officer
lots.
stationed at
Okay,
each
that's
gate after
excellent.
the rodeo till
Excellent.
what, 2 or 3 in the morning.
And for our listeners that don't know what slack is,
Yeah.
it's kind of a overflow of contestants.
Yeah.
You have too many to put in the show, so we do it after the rodeo normally, sometimes before, and it's caused me many years to not get to the beer stand because slack was going on.
Slack was
which
going
has
on.
saved me some money. And,
Yeah.
And it wasn't the barrel racers because they're in and out. It was your ropers.
Yeah, probably so.
Yeah, it didn't have anything
so.
to do with 113 barrel races.
Just
Dragging after every
180,
10.
just 180 team ropers. Yes.
Yeah, you guys draw.
We've done in Attica. We've done many different things to try to get the contestants by numerous performances or numerous different rodeos and everything.
Yep.
Some things worked, some things didn't. And 1 year it was crazy amount of slack because I tried to put in like 3 or 4 separate rodeos and then 5 performances, and it just killed me and the help and everybody. And,
Okay.
But we tried. If you don't try nothing, you don't get anywhere.
Yeah.
And
And that's what I'm taking away. You guys tried a lot of things. You were willing to. You got involved in a lot of things.
We would analyze after every rodeo.
Yeah.
Certain people
Yeah.
would analyze what we did,
Yeah.
what we might have done right, what
Yeah.
we did wrong.
Okay.
And also, before rodeos took place, I always ask, we'll just say like Dean Sawyer, Bernie Buckmeyer, Dick Knapp, prominent riders in rodeo, and the Swearingen family, because they're all very prominent.
Yeah.
Anything that we could do to better
I
what
see.
we did.
So
You always
looking for
have to
feedback.
inquire of the people that are doing it to find out if you're right or wrong,
Yeah.
or if you can improve.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the pats on the back, everything is good. Everything, that's okay. But I want to hear what I did wrong so I can fix it.
You bet.
I want to hear what did them people like. What
Yeah.
what didn't they like? Because I want to fix what was wrong.
For sure.
And ever from the beginning rodeo,
Yeah.
we would ask these questions.
Okay.
Because if you don't, you're not going to improve. You're not going to get better. You're just going to be stale.
Yeah.
And the following meeting, our following, since we're always the first weekend, we always have usually a director's meeting or a meeting that's the following Tuesday. And as the membership, because not everybody can see everything.
Yeah.
So the membership will come and give their experiences or what they saw out there that was good, bad, or
You bet. And are you, while you're working, right? You both have jobs during the rodeo. Were you able to get away and go watch a performance here and there? Could you see part of it?
I would say it's my job. It wasn't her job. She
Yeah.
sat in there counting money all the time.
Yeah, I know that.
Last year, she never saw a rodeo
Yeah.
show.
And that's something that I think our listeners need to really understand. The rodeo committee, and this is amazing, and I want to get back to, don't let me forget about the number that's been given to the organizations through donations, okay? We'll make some estimates maybe of that. But it's incredible. We show up for 5 performances, right? I can come buy a weekend pass. I can see 4 or 5 performances, and I go, that was really cool. I leave, and I don't give it another thought until next August when I want to go do it again. You guys are meeting monthly. You're meeting continuously. You've got horse shows going on. You're continuously looking at how to improve. Isn't this a job?
it is. The 20 years that I was on the board and I served as a treasurer, that was a full-time job. My husband was our CPA, and we worked from 9 in the morning until sometimes we weren't going to bed till like 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and then getting back up at 9 to get everything going. And then I was also going to school at one point, raising my daughter, and had a full-time job.
You bet.
So you have to have a passion for doing this, and you also have to have a support system
that allows it. So
and she didn't have time to ride her own horse.
Yes, and that's a point I want to get across. This is a business. This is not me showing up as a committee member to go, oh, great, I get to get in and watch the rodeo, right? I've had to work 365 days all the way through, thinking about it at the very least, thinking about how to improve and that sort of thing. So what, Dave, was the passion for you? Why?
Just grew up with it, I guess. Didn't know any different. Just enjoyed doing it.
Yeah. But all these years, Dave, 65 years plus, if you really look at it, 65 plus, what's the passion?
I knew you were going to ask that dumb question.
And I'm not going to let you off the hook because it's a passion of love, right? It's what?
I never thought of it as love.
Okay.
I might have loved a good woman.
Yes, for sure.
But I never thought of it in that particular way.
Yeah.
It's just something that the guys I've been acquainted with that helped make this rodeo a success over the 60 plus years, 70 years, were guys that enjoyed coming down there and doing things, thinking out ahead what needed to be done, which a lot of them do.
Yeah.
And just enjoyed the companionship of other good people.
Okay. Yeah. And you were part of a cause. Back to Sandy, I'm gonna ask you, what's the passion? You just described going to school, raising kids, working full time, and spending enormous amounts of time counting money till 2:30 in the morning to get up at 8 the next morning and do it again. What's the passion?
Family.
Okay.
And basically, I grew up. That was my playground growing up.
Okay.
So my passion, they became my family. Someplace I could go that I could ride my horse. Okay. And I had a safe area. Okay. Someplace that I can like share with my daughter now, and because she's come up in the club same way. She was 1 week old. Our rodeo in '96 when she was there 1 week. And the funny thing is, John Downey. I don't remember. Were you there then?
I want to talk about John Downey here in a moment.
John Downey, he was our announcer and had been our announcer for quite a while. And every performance, Josie gained a day. So, but I think for me it was just a feeling of belonging. I have friends that I grew up with. I may have only have seen them once a year. But it's a friendship. I have like Tammy, Jody, Wendy Snyder.
Okay.
To this day, I consider them my friends. Yeah. We may only see each other a couple times in the summertime. That's it. But there's a lot of positive memories. There's a lot of memories from being down there, whether it's rodeo weekend, getting ready for rodeo, or our horse shows. And just the camaraderie and the friendship. Okay,
excellent. Yeah, it's very apparent that both of you, I mean, there's been a drive, there's been a motivation, there's been an inspiration, whatever you want to say. And there has to be some connection, I'm guessing, to the giving. When you're writing the checks, right? And you're contributing back to the community and you're making a difference. And for this committee to come together, this group of people who has this shared purpose, this shared love of the sport, the shared love of the history, Dave, that you mentioned, that's a pretty amazing thing in today's world.
Well, the question I really wanted to ask Dave is kind of, I've heard the answer through and through because it's irrelevant now.
Yeah.
You know, Dave started this rodeo, but he started it with other people. I wanted to say, well, are you sorry you let the committee take it over?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't realize it was a committee from day one.
You bet.
So that explains my,
You bet.
because people come in and they take over and don't do things quite the way you would, right, wrong, or otherwise. So that answered my question. Is he didn't have a choice. They started out as a committee, and it stayed that for 65 years.
That blows
Fantastic.
me away. That blows me away. The business acumen that was brought to this love of this sport, that we're going to take care of the right business. Now,
Each committee had its own individual
you bet.
chairperson,
You bet.
and it went from there.
And
everybody contributed back and forth.
Yeah, and the story I had heard, how it all started, what was it? The boys in the white T-shirts, right? Spoken by Mr. John Downen. Can we say a few words about John? When I met John, I believe he'd already been there 20 years, if I'm not mistaken.
He actually, to come to Attica, he had been coming so long, he did not go to his daughter's wedding.
I remember that story. Yeah.
Well, why she's put on an Attica weekend? She ought to know better.
Exactly.
But you talk about passion and commitment and drive.
Yes.
Right?
And he only had one daughter,
He only had one daughter. And I think it created a bit of a rift, hard feelings. It had to, right?
Why wouldn't it?
Why wouldn't it? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But John Downen, may he rest in peace.
Yes.
Okay. What do you want to share about John?
He had a heart of gold. He would always had a smile on his face. He would go out of his way to help you, talk to you, and he was one of the kindest people I ever met. We only saw each other one weekend a year, but it was like you were the best of friends and saw each other every day.
Yeah.
He made sure he knew who the contestants were.
You bet.
He had the knowledge of the game.
Yep.
And he promoted everybody.
Yep.
When they came out of those chutes or whatever, he was saying nothing but good stuff. He was a very, very positive man.
Very positive man.
No
Absolutely.
negativity.
No. And I was blessed to work with him a few years. And some of my best memories are working with him. He was a complete gentleman.
Yes.
To your point. And you're right. Never said a crossword about anybody. And my favorite picture of all my rodeo memories is hanging on the wall at the house. And it was taken at the 50th rodeo, the anniversary of the 50th rodeo. And Sam and me, I'm thinking through the order of who was there in the picture, and Brody Wheeler took the picture, and it is classic. And it's probably going to be, if it's okay, that'll be the art for this episode. But it was Sam and then me and then you, Dave. Okay? In a white shirt, beautiful button-down white shirt.
How the hell did I get in the picture?
Lois.
I don't believe in having my picture
Good
taken.
camera.
It's a great. I'll show you the picture. Lois Corey, Dick Corey, who had come back for the 50th.
He was our 50th.
He was there for the 50th, and John Downen is on the end, standing in front of the bucket chutes, the wooden bucket chutes at Attica.
Yeah, and one thing, John always had stories, and he got a little carried away sometimes with his stories, but his heart was in the right place. But I am honored to, right up there is his bronc halter and bronc ring. His daughter sent it to me.
Really, very nice. Yep, I've got a picture in my office.
And he wouldn't do that unless he thought highly of you.
Yep.
That's a guarantee.
Yeah.
I've got a
At least
picture
his
of
daughter
it.
did.
I've got a picture of him in my office right over my right shoulder. So then when we're on a Zoom call or whatever, people can see John Downen. Absolutely. What a gentleman. What a treasure. Wow. We've covered a lot of ground. Man, I really appreciate it. What haven't we talked about?
There was one thing I was going to say that we've had for programs down there.
Yeah.
We had logging contest.
Logging. Okay.
They chop, cut trees in the arena.
In the arena.
We had tractor pulls, national tractor pulls in there.
Okay.
We had pony pulls.
Okay.
And horse pulls.
Okay.
And a horse auction and tack auction one time
Okay.
in the ring.
Okay.
So it's been a kind of an all-around.
It has been
purpose.
used. It has. That's amazing. That's amazing.
And we donated the use to 4-H.
And I think it's really special that we have so many local cowboys that have started in our arena, whether it's the Swearingen family, Buckameyers, Sawyers, and I know I've missed so many, but Phillips, that have gone on to the national stage.
Yes, yes.
We have
We got 2 World Sailbrook champions come out of our arena.
We have trick riders.
Yeah.
We have 2 trick riders, 4 trick riders.
Yeah.
Between the Mentir families, Lexi, Courtney Shum, and Matt Gart's daughter, who Matt is a member of our club, who have come on, and they are slowly working onto the national stage also with their abilities in their contract act.
Very cool.
And for the contract acts who have participated in our arena, Keith Isley, Dusty Crane,
Robbie Hodges.
Yep.
He's
That
Hollywood Harris.
That
Brinson,
have come to us.
Hollywood and Boogerhead.
Yeah.
Brinson the Entertainer.
Yeah.
He was there.
Yeah. And that
good point.
So that it when I hear that, and honestly, Sam probably knows this better than I do, that we earned Rodeo of the Year again by the APRA, voted by the APRA Cowboys and Cowgirls, which we are so thankful for.
Congratulations. Congratulations. You guys should be proud.
Great work, folks. Great work.
Great work. What a legacy. What an incredible thing you guys have created. The boys in the white shirts, the white T-shirts, right?
Yep.
And that is incredible. And all your help.
That was a true fact.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also we were listed amongst the top rodeos, listed with Cody, Wyoming, and other top PRCA rodeos in the USA News. Okay. And that is just, for me, it's
I think that's the last
pride.
year Sam ran it.
Yeah. Could be.
Yeah.
So let's tell our folks how to get a hold of you. First off, it's the first full weekend in August.
Right. Starting with a Thursday.
Starting with a Thursday, ends on a Sunday night.
Yes.
4 performances.
5
performances.
Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday afternoon, Saturday night, and Sunday afternoon.
And they can find you online at atticarodeo.com.
Yes.
Get your tickets now. They can buy them online.
Yes.
They're available for sale.
They are.
And come and check it out. When's your next horse show? How do they on atticarodeo.com they can find out what your horse schedule is?
Yes. Kenny Bowney runs our website.
Okay.
And he has already started listing the events that we have scheduled already for the 2024 season. Our barrel racing clinic is up there within the events list. That'll be the first weekend in June. And currently I have all my slots. The maximum is 15 per day.
Okay.
And currently all 15 slots on each day are filled.
So there's no more.
Well,
okay.
I'm not going to say there's no more because
somebody may drop out.
Somebody will drop out.
So you can get on a waiting list?
Yes. Okay. I will be have a waiting list.
And that's Skeet Barrett again.
That is Skeet Barrett. Skeet and Dickie Barrett.
And Dickie Barrett.
Yep.
Perfect.
They are the perfect team.
Okay.
They are the perfect, and it's an awesome clinic, and they're just awesome clinicians, and they're there to help you improve. They're not there to promote themselves.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And
do we have some like a Facebook page or something like that?
Attica Rodeo. Attica Rodeo is our Facebook page. Okay. We have an Instagram. That's, I believe, Attica Rodeo also.
Okay.
And then our barrel racing series is always the first Thursday in May.
Okay.
And it goes through the last Thursday in August.
Every Thursday
Every
night.
Thursday, except for rodeo when
Yeah.
we have the rodeo.
Yeah.
But yes, we have anywhere from 15 to 17 Thursday nights through the summer series.
And how many cowgirls or barrel racers show up for that typically?
Between 50 to 75.
I was going to say, we were there darn near midnight watching them still run.
Yeah. It depends on the weather.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
And that's in the open, not the youth and the
Yeah.
mini kids.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's our open class.
Okay.
And we still have reasonable entry fees. They're not high. It's affordable entry fees. Our cattle penning will start the first Friday in May.
Okay.
And they usually start off, I believe, with the ranch sorting weekend, and then the following weekend is cattle penning. And that goes up until the Saturday before rodeo is the qualifiers. And the qualifiers are for the top 32 cattle penning teams that will make it into the rodeo.
Okay.
And
Wow.
and that's actually that night when you're deciding who it is. You're only allowed to ride in the rodeo 3 times as a
Okay.
person.
Okay.
So if, say, you, Sam, and myself are on a team,
Yeah.
you've already made your 3 runs. You've bumped our team out, and we may have only have made it into the rodeo once. So,
wow.
so that entire team is bumped, and
wow.
it goes to the next person in line at the fastest time.
So we're gonna kick you to the wayside and get somebody else.
Well, for sure, especially if you want to win, right? Especially
No, if you want to ride in the rodeo, you're out. Guys. Sorry. Hey, buddy. Come here.
Yeah.
Hey, Doug, I'll get you a better horse.
There you go.
And our horse shows, this schedule is not set yet, but we will have 1 per month. So we'll have 5 throughout the show.
And that kicks off in April?
No, that'll start in May. Our season starts in May.
In May. Okay.
Normally, if anything starts in April, it's usually if they have it, it's the high school rodeo is usually the last weekend in April.
Wow.
And depending on the weather, we may have another one in the fall.
And that horse show, all the events?
English, Western games, and this past year, ranch horse was started.
Ranch horse was started.
So we're looking to hopefully, since it was new, there weren't a lot of entries, but we're hoping that the word spreads and those events will riders will increase.
That is perfect. That is absolutely perfect. Wow. What a machine you guys are running. This is incredible. What a business. This is all right. Well, first off, I want to thank you guys. I've enjoyed this so much and learned so much. And I really appreciate you coming and sharing and did a great job of there's 65 years of memories here. So to our listeners, we hope that you enjoyed our conversation about the business of rodeo, specifically about the rodeo business in Attica, New York. If you do, please share it with your friends. To make your listening easier, you can find us on all the major podcast streaming platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Search for Beyond the Chutes and follow us. Remember, check out the New York State Rodeo Museum Facebook group page and become a member. Remember, you can find information about the Attica Rodeo at atticarodeo.com. Get on there, buy your tickets, look at your schedules, know when the horse shows are happening. Get out and visit this great facility. And we'd like to say thank you to ParaSight Systems for their support with our podcast. And you can find them at ParaSightSystems.com. And we have a coupon for 50% off your horse testing kits. It is BTC 023. Get 50% off. All you got to do is go online, get your kits coming, and they will send them off to you, and you'll save 50%. And this is Beyond the Chutes with
Dave Wheeler.
Sandy Brewer.
Sam Swartz.
Until next time, this is Doug Simcox. Thank you for listening.